Hey readers, writers, and friends, Story Serpent here with our first ever dumpster drop roundup. These books are absolutely not worth your time or your money, so we are going to line them up and shoot them down. But first, today's random words are like, share, subscribe, spurn. First up, we have The Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy by Keri Maniscalco. This was published by Little Brown, which is a part of the Hachette book group. This is a YA fantasy centered around the princes of hell, and let me tell you, they got me. I often buy my own book-related Christmas presents, which is one of the benefits of being a grown-up. And they were advertising this box set hard in December of 2022, because the third book had dropped in September of that year. And I saw the covers, they were super rich, the whole series was done, which was how I usually like to do a series if I can, and I said, shut up and take my money. And then I had buyer's remorse immediately. Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy has these beautiful covers. It has maps that mean nothing for the whole first book, tell you nothing about the actual positions of things relative to one another. And when you do get confused later on in the series about where is she, where is that relative to this other place, the purpose of a map in a book, in case the publishers were not aware, is to give the reader a reference for when they do get confused about where things are. This is worthless. This map is absolutely worthless. It does nothing. It coats the end pages in nonsense, effectively. Worthless nonsense. Now, normally something that has this high a production value, where the hardbacks are very nice, they've got these really pretty end papers, high production value cover design, I would normally call this the Insidious, based on what it contains. However, the writing is so bad. It's awkward. It's stilted. It's muddy. The characters are inconsistent. You think that she's building this mystery story about how someone died, and then by the time you get into book 2, it's just porn. This series becomes straight up erotica by book 2, and it's not romantic. It's not nice. It is graphic and disgusting. Amazon may say that this is for ages 16 and up. If you're writing books for teenagers that contains graphic sex, you're a disgusting person. These will be shelved with other YA books, which means kids as young as 12 and 13 will be picking these up, especially since kids tend to read up. Kids at 12 and 13 want to hear stories about mid-teenagers, older teenagers. They're looking forward in their timeline. This series is absolute trash. And if you got attached to any of the ideas, the settings, some of the characters in book 1, don't worry, it's all fake. It means absolutely nothing by book 2. Now, I should have known by the title of the book that none of the characters would be good people. But the one who's even remotely compelling is the devil himself. And the moral of the story in the end seems to be, as long as the sex is mind-blowing, it's okay to make yourself vulnerable to an emotionally unavailable man who literally lives in an ice palace. I would not hand this to any young woman of my acquaintance, and I will not be reading another thing that Keri Maniscalco writes ever again. Dumpster drop. Next, we have The Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. This was published in April of 2022 by Razorbill, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. Despite the paperback being available in August of 2023, I picked this up in October of 2023 as a hardback because the hardcover is what was being hawked by Amazon and Barnes & Noble as a spooky Halloween read. Translation: They printed way too many of these things, and they're desperate to get rid of them. This is a YA fantasy romance that promises an opulent setting. Again, very lovely cover. We are meant to believe that this is going to be a great mystery, very interesting, and we are immediately forced to see this whole thing through an insufferable female character who, it turns out, is just stupid. She is so dumb. She is so impulsive. She never listens to anyone who might have more knowledge than her about anything. And in the end, she has to be told how super specially special she is. And we have to slog through 3 straight pages of her internalizing how she was the one with all the real power all along. It's garbage. And despite the fact that her actions literally result in her sister missing part of her hand by the end, there are no consequences for her personally. She ends up taking control of the hotel, being the most powerful mage, and ending up with her romantic interest, who, frankly, there's no romantic tension between the two of them. The story isn't particularly compelling. Nobody has a character arc. I will give Emily J. Taylor her due. She writes really great descriptions of things. So if you are looking for just a bunch of interesting magical ideas strung together, you might enjoy this. But this is not a story. None of the plot twists are plot twists. They are just information that the reader has already figured out many, many pages previously that is finally revealed. Here's the thing. If the information reveal is just a thing we already knew, and it does not lead to more questions, more implications, a real change in where we thought this story was going, then it's not a plot twist. It's just boring. The number of times this thing thinks it twists, when really it's just telling us something we had already figured out, is astonishing. Again, whoever your editor is, they didn't do their job. They should have told you, this is not a plot twist. They should have told you, starting with a character we don't have a reason to like, who just runs headlong into bad situations, that's not going to get anybody on board. So why this book was picked up and then shipped out the way it was, I have no idea. It's not good. It's not fun. You won't enjoy it. Dumpster drop. The last book in today's roundup is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez, published by Wednesday Books, which is an imprint of St. Martin's, yada yada, it's a Macmillan. It was published October 31st of 2023. It is supposed to be a historical romance fantasy. And it was the Barnes & Noble YA Book Club pick for November. Remember the publishing date? October 31st? Meant to be the November book club pick? Yeah, that's going to give you an idea of how rushed and on deadline this thing was, and it reads that way. While the earlier chapters are well written enough, everything starts to deteriorate by the end. More typos, more awkward sentences, blocking that is muddy, more stuff that makes no sense. They were on a deadline because they had made a deal with Barnes & Noble, and it shows. Now, I will give the author credit. She is also one who describes a scene with real skill. There were times where, I kind of felt the marketplace they were meant to be in, or the ruins that they were excavating. She does that really well. But that's about it. Now, once again, they're trying to dress it up for you. We have these very pretty embossed covers with, look, photos. These photos are never taken. These photos have nothing to do with the book. But they're here just to make sure you know Our main character is brown, and her love interest is young Henry Cavill, because she is terrible at actually describing people. There's no way these pictures are what I would have had in my head from her description. So we got to make sure you know what you're doing. Moreover, our main character is supposed to be a phenomenal charcoal artist, just really good. In fact, so good that she could capture the Egyptian hieroglyphics in place of a photographer who was supposed to be there. But this is what we are shown. It is a bad digital rendering. I'm sorry, this is not what a talented charcoal artist would be producing. It's nonsense, it's garbage, it was clearly rushed. We need a picture here. Quick, slap one in there. It honestly would have been better to not have any of her drawings in there and let us continue to believe that she had talent. Now it's just a girl scribbling in, MS Paint. I also chucked this book across the room because it wraps up none of the storylines it starts in the beginning. The fact that I made it to the end of this book is actually quite astonishing because our main character is, again, just insufferable. She's dumb. She makes terrible choices again and again and again. And in the end, all of those terrible choices get her cousin killed, with seemingly no personal consequences for the main character. Now, if I were to spot a trend in the industry, it might just be tell young women your bad choices will result in the people around you being hurt, but you'll be fine, so no worries. There is a split POV on a stupid level of unnecessary. We don't need to see most of the stuff that's happening with young Henry Cavill. We can have it inferred, or we can have it told to us later. It doesn't balance the story. It doesn't add anything except for an apropos of nothing nude scene so that we know that he's been looking at boobs. That's it. That's all it's meant to do. It's absurd. Moreover, I don't know a single man who can have broken ribs, be beat all to heck, and still get an erection. Do you know that guy? I don't think I know that guy, but he totally does, and cops a feel while they are about to die in a tomb that they have been sealed into. It's had the door open for many, many hours, but we see them suffocating within minutes. Like, it's absurd. None of this book makes any kind of sense. It doesn't deliver on any of its story promises, and it does that as a way to force you to buy the sequel. This is supposed to be a duology. I don't care if this is supposed to be a 2-book series. You should wrap something in terms of story before the end of book 1 so that I am interested in book 2. I am not interested in book 2. I might check it out from the local library when it drops eventually just to see how bad this gets. It's the train wreck you can't look away from. But you will not enjoy this. You will be annoyed by this, and it's not executed well. Dumpster drop. That rounds out today's list of rejects. If you've had the misfortune to come across a dumpster drop of your own, tell me all about it in the comments. Until I see you again, read on, write on, stay sharp.